Hello, everybody. This is Grown Folks Business. This week we decided to reschedule for next week, so we're going to watch a past broadcast this week. Enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of GFB Grown Folks Business on a Thursday evening, a brisk one. We've been spoiled the last week or so with some awesome weather. I think more is on the way, so I'm looking forward to that. But we seemingly have to weather a little chill tonight, and I think Saturday's looking pretty disastrous. I actually had plans for Saturday that included community engagement, so I had to reschedule, and I'm okay with that, and I think the community is too, because we got bigger pictures to look at, and we'll get together when we can. So welcome again, and glad to have some familiar faces as always, and then some that haven't been here in a while, and some of it is my absolute fault. I've given my apologies on the other side at the beginning, and I hope they're received as intended, but glad you can make it back here, Mr. Arthur Durham. Appreciate having you in the space. I wanted to make sure I gave you that acknowledgement first, because we had an awesome conversation a while ago at this point, and you were a part of that, and I'm glad that you could make it back here this evening. So Les, glad to see you here again. Been more recent, last couple weeks, but glad to see you back here in space. Bob, mainstay, good to have you back. You've been out of pocket for a couple weeks, but hey, you got to do things and take care of life, and before life takes care of you. So glad that you could make it back this evening. And Gregory and Julia, as always, nice to see you guys too. Tonight's topic is, of course, apropos, given the fact that we're about to transition into daylight savings time and warmer temperatures, and hopefully a little less COVID and a lot more living and being outdoors and engaged and enjoying the company of our family and friends in person. Uh, I think that's highly important at this point. And that lack has shown, and now we get to seemingly, hopefully, nothing else happens, no variants and none of this other stuff. We get to get back to some of that normalcy. So tonight's topic is spring cleaning or spring cleaning. What's better to give up, and what's worth holding on to? So I'm kind of thematic. I think you all get that by now. I want to say this is the second time, because we've been on so long at this point, that I've been able to do a show about uh, spring cleaning. Of course, we mean it figuratively and metaphorically. So spring cleaning or spring cleaning. Are you just holding on to something you probably should let go of? I'll give a first round of conversation to some of the people I hadn't seen in a while, a couple of people I hadn't seen in a while. So I'm going to start with Arthur, but before I ask a question, I just want to just begin by just tell me in a few words uh, what does this transition into spring generally mean to you? What things take place in your life that you know are coming?
Thank y'all for having me again, Brother Felton and everyone. Spring. I'm a resident of Philadelphia, so my whole family is still out there. So spring gives me a time to. I just had a new grandson, so my daughter just had her third son, and he's relatively new. So spring gives me a chance to start taking a few early vacation weeks that I've built up. And I work at a school as an administrator, so I've already put them on notice. So spring is where I go to Philly, spend some nights with my mom, go get my grandkids, and give my daughter a break with her children, and do my Philadelphia tour. Go get me some steaks and go see some of my old homies that I grew up with, and then break it on back to Carolina.
That sounds like what you have to do when you know Philly gets ice cold.
Yes,
Ice
sir.
cold, yeah, windy, all kind of stuff, man. So I know they probably come visit you in the wintertime sometimes, because North Carolina has a decent middling weather. I think we can function outside most of the year. So
Yes, sir.
that's good. Celeste, tell me what your thoughts are on this spring transition. What you got going on?
Well, first things first, Phil, and speak for yourself. As a lifelong Southerner, I don't function outside once it gets below about 45, 50 degrees. I want to be inside with the nice weather. Bob is with me on that one. The spring transition, I always view spring as what it is, the birth of new life. So new ideas, new creativity, new friendships. I mean, just enjoying the beautiful world that is once it's above 50 degrees outside. Like, I love allergies are terrible. Was sick all last week. Couldn't talk right. Sounded crazy. But the new flowers that are going to bloom, being able to go for run, go for hikes, be a nature gal as I am. So that's what spring is to me. And I don't clean anyway. So that's whole spring cleaning. I hope it's clean all year round because I'm not getting to it in the spring.
So spring is not a motivator to clean for you. I got you. I don't even know where that quite comes from, but it kind of makes sense because you can open the windows. There was a time before everybody had central air. You open the windows, you get some fresh air in, and you might straighten up. That's when you start noticing the dust in the sunlight, and you're like, I got to do something with this place. But yeah, I'm a fall guy. So Celeste, I'm outside, more of that time because, as you stated, allergies. You start to see your car get a little bit of a yellow tint to it, and it's about to be on when it comes to your ability to breathe. So I'm more in favor of the fall myself. I can take a little chill, layer up. Gregory and Julia, I know the space that you guys occupy is an absolutely beautiful one. So tell us about your transition into the springtime.
Great. Well, I get excited this time of year because Gregory gets excited about gardening. So we got a bunch of topsoil and stuff for some raised beds and tomato plants. So that's exciting. I'm like Celeste. I love being outside. I love the new growth, seeing the little green buds on the trees, walking. We've had our windows open a couple of nights, and I like her idea of no cleaning. So we did do a little cleaning when we had the windows open. But yeah, I love this time of year. But I love the fall too, Felton. Each season brings something different.
I like the idea of cycles and renewal. And so spring is a special time for renewal. And it reminds us that life is cyclical. And so that's kind of cool to think about life's beginnings and life's endings and the middle places too. It seems significant to balance ourselves, thinking about things like that we're not here on this planet forever. And we do have a shelf life. But it's nice to have the spring remind us that there's new life. And I do thoroughly love springtime. I love working in soil, the old beds, cleaning out the old beds, preparing them for new growth, new plantings. We were doing that today. We're planting trees today. We planted 30 trees out here at the airport today. But anyway, love the springtime, love preparing and reviewing and reflecting on cycles.
Wow, I look forward to seeing your handiwork in the not too distant future. We have things to plot out, so I look forward to the visit and what we end up engaging in on that beautiful property. Bob, what's your thoughts on this springtime thing?
It's kind of funny because I like spring more. Well, fall used to always be my favorite season, and there were aspects of fall, the crispness, the leaves. I love the mountains. Fall to me, it seems to be a kind of a pensive season. You know, when you kind of more cerebral. It's when you start having the fireplace is going again, it starts going again, and that kind of, and I love the fireplace going. But spring also taking me out of winter, because I hate being cold. I just hate being cold. And so taking me out of winter, flowers blooming, trees blooming, the tree frogs that I hear, all of that, it's refreshing. It brightens things up. It just makes you feel like you've got stuff to look forward to. So you know, I don't think too philosophically about spring, but I do think that for me, it's getting out of the inside. It's getting out of the dreariness. It's getting out of the. And I don't mind. I like wearing sweaters, but I also like wearing shorts. And I want to get. I'm ready to get out of the sweaters and out of the jackets and out of all that kind of stuff and into the shorts and into being outside, because I love being outside.
Yeah, the wardrobe transition is more of a general observation of the changing of the weather and the changing of the seasons than I think cleaning or anything else ever has been. I think it's just that, you know, you dust off something that you forgot you had and you're like, ooh, I can wear that now, or vice versa, you know, especially when we get to the layered weather and you got a jacket that you just couldn't wait to wear the first sign of a little chill in the air.
There's an enthusiasm, I think, that comes with spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Revitalization. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a revitalization, an enthusiasm that comes with spring that I think as I get older, that really becomes kind of the overwhelming sense or aspect of that, if that makes any sense.
Nah, I get it. I mean, there's a recharge for me, even if I don't fully acknowledge it immediately or think about it consistently. It just naturally happens. There's a recharge. Again, I'm a go to the park guy, walk around guy, golf guy. You know, the ball flies further the better the weather is. So, you know, and if it's not too hot, I'm definitely more comfortable outside. So 60s and 70s, I love it. It's perfect. So I'll transition into one of my questions. Oh, okay. Lisette says, let me rephrase, spring moves out the old and makes room for the new. Indeed. I think it's if you base your thoughts around a tree, basic idea around a tree during the fall, when it loses all of its leaves and looks like it is about to be on its way out of here. You know, I have a tendency of seeing a tree with no foliage and say, oh, that, you know, that tree is over there by that dead tree, and it's not dead. It's just kind of resting, because the next time you see it, if spring has happened and it seems like it takes all of 5 minutes, leaves are all over it, birds are in and out of it, and you know, you realize looks can be totally deceiving. So yeah, it's out with the old leaves and in with the new ones if nothing else. Mark Porter says, I love the fall time. I'm originally from Greensboro, North Carolina, living here in Savannah. You look forward to fall. Our summers can be brutal, hot, very early. Indeed. So yeah, that whole humidity thing, man, it's the worst. And early, yeah, Savannah's got that moist air. It's a beautiful place to look at, especially in a picture in the summer, because if you're there, you're probably cooking. So, and I mean, you cooking, not cooking something. So, yeah, I'll again, I'm going to transition into my first question, and I'll just come back around the space in the same order I began. Arthur, I'll start with you. Of course, when I'm talking about spring and spring cleaning versus spring cleaning, it's metaphorical. So you can use actual items and thoughts and things, or you can make it about something that, is outside of that scope of tangible things. It can be just about ideas and such. So how do you know it's time to let something you never thought you would be without go? So there are things that we just take for granted. We have them all the time, and then it's like, why do I still have this? And either you make a conscious decision to let it go, or you put it in the drawer because you think you might need it again someday. Now, again, metaphorically speaking, or actual. So,
well, like you say, the metaphor can be applicable to, material things. I'm a collector, and I'm that little neglected kid who likes to get everything now that he couldn't get as a kid, and what drives my wife crazy. But at the same time, as an administrator in a school, I always try to come into every season, particularly coming from the cold to the warmer part of the year, with a different perspective, like a different philosophy implementation. I always try to come up with something to try to implement, specifically working with my younger kids. And I always like to change up a little bit and try to add something. Then I apply it to them when I'm talking inside of a little workshop I might do, and to teach them the different levels of growth. And then we monitor that like at every report period. So this is the second report period coming up, and my 8th graders are about to become high schoolers. So we're prepping them for the transition. So we did in February, we did a Black History program, an event for the whole month. We had all of the 8th graders took an individual who from the past that was in cryogenic freeze, and they thawed out and they're here in 21st century. 2018 we started, and they took a different variation of different people, different walks of life, pioneers, and they actually mentored these individuals once they thawed out. Social media, computer, it was just fascinating to see how some of the kids, after we instructed them from, say, the beginning of the school year now into the winter, and see how they were applying the things that they utilize through the premise of our school is social justice. So they call themselves, I forget this term they call it, the woke generation. So we got a crew call themselves the woke generation. So they explaining to them why they were woke. And the funny part is I teach them to think critically, and I'm starting to hear the critical concepts of thought when they ask them questions, and when we giving them, like, we all take the individual. I was George Washington Carver, so I thought out, and I had to act like I'm coming into this period, and I'm asking them about things of the pioneering things that I set up. Like, what did they do? What did they learn from that, as far as cultivation and going into the ground and utilizing, the soil to bring forth things that we need? And they said something. I said, well, where are all the Black farmers? Because there was nobody in the school wanted to be a farmer, but they thawed him out. So it was funny. It was fun to see it. But in terms of what you were asking the question, I like to always try to go to each season and add something. Right now, we're going into the spring season. So right before they transition off to high school, I want to add another element to them to try to shine up that eye. We call it the third eye, and make sure they see things in a different level before they manifest to high school.
I mean, I really love that you made that connection to something you're doing as you mentor the youth. And George Washington Carver is one of my favorite guys. Peanut butter and soybeans and the boll weevil, getting rid of something that was destroying crops. Man, pure genius. And I'm glad he had safe space to function at Tuskegee and really create some things that benefited us as a nation. Awesome, man. That's a great exercise too. I really like that one, Arthur. Celeste, how do you know it's time to let something you never thought you would go?
Well, I do not actually know how to give a specific and concise answer to this question. Maybe it's because I'm so young and I haven't necessarily went through that phase of life where I have to let something go. But because the thing is, I'm not a hoarder. So most things to me, I can cull and get rid of. Like I can remove clothes from my closet. I can remove baggage from my life usually without a lot of feelings attached to it. There's never been something, I guess, other than my dog and my parents, really. There's nothing necessarily that I'm like, oh, I absolutely can't get rid of that. Oh, wow. I didn't get the hoarding gene from my grandmother the way I thought I did, because I was like, oh, maybe I can't let go of. I guess the way you go about it is I have an emotional attachment to people and the feelings that they give me and the love that you feel. And once you no longer contribute to those positive feelings or that positive love and that positive aura, I don't feel the need of keeping it or them there. So I guess honestly, as long as I'm in positivity and light and feeling well, I guess I don't feel a need to keep much around. I don't know. Maybe this will change one day.
So I would instantly, because you referenced how young you were, I'm gonna stop for a moment and give you your young appreciation. How young you were. No dolls, toys, things that you just still have around that you've had since your youth.
My mother does not play that. I turned maybe 14 and she got rid of all my toys. I don't know where they went. Yeah, outside of my dog and my parents and maybe my childhood home. And even then, I know one day my parents will sell their house. So yeah,
Don't get attached to it, right? Yeah, don't get
outside of my mom, dad, and my dog Charlie, there's not much that I hold so dear that I just can't imagine. Now, if something happened to my Charlie, my sweet baby, my Shih Tzu, it would be, well, World War III is not a great reference, but it would be all out terror. I'm attached to him. I love him. He cannot go anywhere. There is no getting rid of my baby Charlie.
Okay. And that's a living thing. That is wonderful, and that's what this space is for, to learn, more about how different people interact with the world that we live in. I still have toys and stuffed animals from when I was a kid that I know are just here, but I just can't get rid of them, Celeste. And I don't mind giving stuff away. So I gave away like my childhood basketball recently to my buddy's son. And yeah, it's here, and I don't mind giving it to somebody that's gonna use it. You know what I mean? So it was not anything that I felt like I had to get rid of, but I didn't mind this kid enjoying it as I once did, and it was still in pretty good shape because I sucked at basketball. Okay.
Ooh, that's right there.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. So, Gregory and Julia, is there anything that comes to mind as far as knowing it's time to let something go? Let me read Lisette's comment first, Gregory and Julia, and then I'll come back right to you. Lisette says, letting go of relationships that connect to your soul, but that cause more harm than good is how I connect to this question. Letting go of relationships, people, expectations of people is so hard. Oh yeah, definitely. If you are someone who is feeling and somewhat emotional, I won't say overly, but somewhat emotional, and draw those type of connections, it can be excruciatingly tough to get over failed relationships or ones that don't connect on the level that you desire to. So yeah, great observation, Lisette. And that's what we're here for, just having discussions about how you perceive the questions. The questions are intentionally constructed the way they are, Celeste, so I'm glad you got what you did out of it. But keep your dog. So Gregory, Julia, yeah, what are your thoughts on if there's a time that comes when you have to get rid of something you never thought you would go without?
Wow. First, I want to know where Arthur teaches. That sounds like an amazing school.
It's called the Experiential School of Greensboro. It's the new, well, it's not new, it's 4-year public charter across the street from the bus depot there, the old candy factory.
Very cool. Well, I love your program and the creativity that goes along with that. Yeah, Gregory is great with getting rid of things, and that's been so good for me. We came from a larger house to a very small space with no storage, which is great. It doesn't allow us to accumulate things that, and you figure out real quick what's essential and what's not essential.
She still tries.
Well, okay. But I'm getting much better, and there's this wonderful Facebook group called Buy Nothing Davy, and each county has one. I'm sure there's a Buy Nothing Greensboro, but it's based on the shared economy, circulation, gifting things. So I just posted, some boots and shoes, and people say it's very polite. People say, you say, I'm gifting so and so, and people say, I'd like to be considered for this. Not I want it, but, and then you can make it fun and have contests like, tell me what the funnest thing you did in boots was or something, and have a contest. But it's all about a shared economy, gifting economy. If we have something that somebody else needs or wants, then let them have it. There's no charge for anything. And we recently picked up, this is a little off the subject, but a beautiful chest for a friend of ours at Publix who really needed it and isn't in a good financial situation, but she got a free, beautiful chest from Ashley Furniture that somebody was donating. Anyway, that's off the subject, but I'm working on, I love Celeste's idea of not being attached to things.
There's another flip side to being those of us who are more advanced and are willing to let go of things like Felton and I. We're willing to let go of things very readily and very easily. But it's really important that we don't get puffed up about that and think that that's the advanced way of thinking. Julia is really good about helping us stay on point and finding us meaningful activities. And this group in Davie County, which is, as she said, all over the country, giving things away free and sourcing things. If there's something in the house that doesn't really serve anymore, give it away. And we were able to leverage that. There's a lady who Julia mentioned at Publix grocery store who's been contributing to our Fresh Hope, which is contributing food to families don't have food. So we're leveraging our relationship with these two entities to help both of them. And so there's a beauty in that in one activity, we're finding purpose. Another activity, we're finding purpose. It's all good. It's all good. And so the important thing is not to get puffed up about one particular attitude. Be open, be looking. And Julia really helps us in finding those kinds of things. Be willing to let go. Don't be attached. And I'm speaking to myself. Don't be attached and be open. And that kind of fits the be open to spring, in the fall, let go. And cycles teach us things if we believe in such things.
I wholeheartedly agreed, and out of sight, out of mind is a real thing. So just because you find it and you're like, oh, I forgot I had this, doesn't mean that it becomes something you hold on to just so you can lose sight of it again. As you stated, there's some usefulness left in something, whether it's that basketball or whether it's some shoes or a coat or what have you. There's some usefulness left. What good is it doing you just occupying your closet? None. And we've had conversations in this space about being a minimalist. This is along those lines. So even when you just discover it's okay to let something go you never thought you would, it's nice to be able to find some solace in knowing that it's being used by somebody who can appreciate it as you once did. I think that's the rub there. Bob, what about you, man? You got observations on this part of the question, this part of the topic, and as far as the question goes, you need me to read it again, or you got it?
No, I think I'm good. I shared an article with you, Felton, the other day that I don't think you've read yet, but it's an article around satisfaction. And one of the things that is part of the cycle of healthy life, as you're growing up and as you are seeking independence, you have an accumulation orientation because you move out of your parents' place and you've got to start acquiring things of your own. And if you have a family, then you've got need for more things and whatnot. And then after your family is raised, and as you move back into a more simple life, then you move into a kind of a shedding of things kind of phase where you it's time to let go of stuff and it's time to simplify again. You know, you grow up as a little person, things are simple. As an adult with children and family and all the stuff that goes with that, it's more complex. And then as you age and then things simplify again, and so you can diminish and let go of things. Some of us are more sentimental than others, right? So, but what if there's something that you're attached to and your grandchild breaks it? It's the easiest thing in the world to let go of. The easiest thing in the world to let go of. And so through those kinds of things, you discover really, well, you know, stuff is stuff. And my grandchild means more to me than the stuff ever did, even though the stuff might be 2 or 3 generations old, but the grandchild broke it. Or the child of a friend of yours broke it, or whatever, or somebody, your son or your daughter, your grandchild says, "Well, that's stupid." Well, okay, now you've got a different attitude around it. I mean, I think that stuff is stuff, and it's just a matter of what dynamics cause it to take on value and cause it to diminish in value for you. The other thing that's kind of interesting to me, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about relationships. And this goes to maybe something Lisette said earlier. What creates relationships in different phases of your life? Quite different, one phase to the other. And sometimes it's a function of just simply what you're doing, and relationships develop that matter, and they mean something. But then you move into another phase of your life, and that meaning shifts, and what you focus your energies on shifts. And so, and another aspect of what Lisette said earlier, if you find relationships are hurtful, not helpful, well, let's embrace that. Let's embrace the joy of discovering that, hey, I'm learning, I'm distilling, and I can let go of that which is negative, and I can embrace that which is positive. And I think all of that sort of stuff plays into this. And it's to Greg's point, it is cyclical or cyclical, whichever way you want to use that term. It's not necessarily a cycle of nature or a cycle of time, but it is a cycle of experience and a cycle of life. And I think the goal needs to be staying abreast and staying aware of what's healthy and what's good and what's refreshing and what's life-giving, and shedding the stuff that's burdensome, that's complicated, that's adding negativity to your life. Lighten it up. and make it real.
So I love that you referenced what Lisette mentioned in the chat box, because I was gonna come to that in kind of the way that you're alluding to with the next question. And to keep this going with that being an understood thing, it's what should you discard to get closer to who you want to be, and what should you keep? So thinking about how Lisette's question applies in terms of relationships, you're a part of those relationships. Relationships will require you to be present in them. And I'm not a believer necessarily in the hero or the villain in relationships. It takes two people at certain points. And sometimes it's more than that, depending on how far we're going with this conversation. But you're a part of any relationship that you're in. That's the important factor. So what should you discard to get you closer to who you want to be, and what should you keep? You can put the comment back up down. Y'all read that before. Lisette said, yes, Bob, thank you for affirming the hardships and complexities of what it is to be in community with others. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for tuning in, Lisette, and providing some really good comments. Have to get you into squares at some point in time. I'm going to come to Celeste, like she's thinking hard, or either she's yawning. One, I'm not sure. We might be boring the young lady. She's in a space with so many old folks. So
no,
this
question actually kind of hit on what I was talking about the other question. So a character reflection on myself is I'm an extremely determined individual. Once I decide on something, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make it happen. And I found that I like to be a very positive person. I do my yoga, drink my smoothies, live in light and love and all those things. And one thing I've learned is being a loving person, people find me. It's like the universe sends people to me when they need to be healed, and they suck all of this energy out of me, and then they put their negativity on me, and now I'm battling their demons with them. And it honestly comes down to, I don't hold a lot of things, like a lot of objects and stuff, so close that I can't throw it away, but I tend to do that with people. When you love people, you love them hard, and that's the way I am. But you also have to learn when those people are draining you and you're no longer productive, and you can no longer achieve and get to your own goals because somebody is sucking the energy to fight for what you want out of you, so you can fight for what they want or need. Because some people, let's face it, some people are not strong enough to stand in life on their own. And that's not a negative reflection of them, and you can still stand with them and be their friend. But some people do purposefully use and abuse people who give too much love, too much light, too much anything. So this might not be exactly what you meant, but I think that sometimes cutting off people who bring you nothing but negativity and drain you constantly, those are the things that you need to discard. Those are the relationships you need to get rid of, because you loving a toy, you loving a Barbie doll, that Barbie doll is not draining you. That toy is not draining you. It's a positive memory possibly associated with it. In most cases, if you're keeping something with you into adulthood, it's a positive memory. Your first Transformer toy, your first action figure, a teddy bear, a doll, those things are connected to such positive memories, and I don't think they can really impact you in such a negative light. But people and attachments to people who are there to drain your energy. Some people get jealous quickly when they see you succeeding and bringing you down. It's important to know when to cut these negative relationships off, because they can drain they can drain the energy that you have to get what you want, and can impact you and your goals and what you want out of life and all that good stuff. So I might not call things, but I definitely learned the hard way that sometimes you got to cut off some people.
Great observations, and I appreciate your contribution to the space. Just as a side note, that I recently had a conversation similar to this, and I don't think that there's any perfect way of approaching any matter. I don't think there's any absolutes. I don't view myself as someone who is empowered enough or at a stage where I can be dismissive of anyone, regardless of how they may be perceived by me. Now, that'll take care of itself generally, in terms of interaction, because everybody just moves in different ways, and if something's not beneficial or edifying, generally it dissipates anyway from my perspective. However, I do support that notion when it's abusive relationships and things that you know are detrimental to your peace of mind, and when you know you're dealing with someone who is the villain in the play. But I'm not someone who can position themselves as some type of omnipotent force that decides who they interact with because this person is doing this and that. We're all fragile and we're all fallible. The best and the worst of us. That's just the facts. And that's the only way I can process why someone may be that type of individual, Celeste. And a lot of times, and you sound like me, I'm a people keeper. We don't like giving up on people. That's just how I function also. But I'm not a fool either. So I get that. I get that completely.
Mama raised no fool. That's the best way to explain it to you.
Exactly. So I appreciate your contribution. Arthur, what are your thoughts on if you need me to read the question again, I will. What should you discard to get you closer to who you want to be, and what should you keep? And as Celeste did, as everyone does in this space, feel free to take it wherever it takes you.
Yeah, well, this is my, what I would say, fifth state I've lived in since '98. And I like to consider myself a relationship builder, and doing the type of work that I do, not just working in the schools, but the cure of violence work that I currently do here in the city. This is my third state doing cure of violence. So that's intimate association in the streets, dealing with a certain, subset population that's plays an integral part of saving lives in our community. But within that work, and me not being indigenous to a lot of the cities, I encounter friendships or acquaintances. And I always have to, pick and choose the individuals that I get close to, in terms of close enough where I can build with and help manifest things in those streets out there. So I bring in certain ones, and then sooner or later they'll see me starting to disassociate from them. Not because I might not like them, because I'm an objective individual. I take the good with the bad, like a debate, give relevance to the contrary. I do the same thing in relationships. So if it's not for me and I don't think it's conducive to achieving a goal, I sort of let them people be them, and I take my toolkit and place it in the hands of other people, or show other people who I think are more like me to build on, or the individuals who just need to know how to use a certain tool. I show them that. I'm 48 this year, so I had my travels. I've actually had that here, getting here, and I think Felton, about the Cure Violence program, and there was a lot of individuals here, indigenous here, who did a lot of the groundwork. They played a pertinent role in getting the funding here, but of course, inside those little think tanks and those friendships, rivalry started, right? And a lot of those people who were beneficial in bringing that program here, they no longer friends. And the irony of it was, I told them to say goodbye to their friendships the first weekend I met them, and they thought I was crazy. I said the same thing in Harlem, same thing in the Bronx, Queens, Kansas City, you name it, because I understand what happens when you're dealing with certain types of personalities and unrecognized behaviors, if that makes any sense. We all know what we see when we evaluate people, right? One of my, my first background, my first degree is human development and family studies, right? And being able to evaluate personnel and personalities, right? So in order to not be a part of something, I like disassociate. That gives me a tag as a introvert. And that's here because I don't do the hangout. I don't accept a lot of people. Or it comes to the bar, I don't drink. I don't do the, the other extracurricular stuff. My idea of a good weekend is Saturday night watching a monster movie after 11 o'clock. So I'm a boring dude like that. But and back to the question, I just know what's conducive to having me grow and what can stagnate me and could trigger things that could get ugly in terms of doing certain works that we need to, help here in these streets. And I've lost relationships here, but were they relationships or were they acquaintances? Who knows? The future might hold different, but I do know when to give it up and when to embrace.
Yeah, there's a something to be said for recognizing you don't put people in boxes and you don't put yourself in one. There's plenty of space out here in the world for everybody, so nobody has to be understood to be one thing or the other. I grew up in Greensboro, and I spent my time running around and having friends I never thought I'd be without, and then things fall apart or things just go a different direction when your interests change. Not putting them in a box, not putting me in a box, because if I see them right now, it's all love. We spent some time together and some times together that we can appreciate and look back and be glad we made it through. But we didn't have to be a total constant. But that love and adoration still exists outside of the time we shared. So, hey, man, I get it. And like you said, don't mean it's a complete wrap. Could find them again and just could be appreciative in a different environment, in a different context of existence. Appreciate you sharing that, man. Greg and Julia, what about yourselves? Do you have any thoughts on the matter of what you should discard to get closer to who you want to be and what you should keep?
I think one of the best things that we can evaluate in our lives are our relationships and where we spend our time and our energy, especially when we get to be the ages that we are now. And what brings joy is a good question. What brings joy to others is a good place to start, I think. What to let go of is if it costs too much, if it takes too much out of us, if it takes too much from others, if it's not serving, then we might let go of that. Things are worth fighting for, and we do fight for things, but we have to know the difference between what we're attached to and is draining and what contributes in the overall scheme of things. When we can walk away from a thing and feel good about it, and not feel like we've done something for just ourselves, but that served a greater purpose, and we can feel good about that. Arthur, I think you're already connected to that kind of thought. You're a serving individual, and it's inspiring to have you on tonight. Celeste, the same thing. Bob, Danye, Felton, you're all those. It's so good to be spending this time and talking about such things. I think we're pretty solid, all of us, in the way we believe and the way we live. It's nice to share these thoughts, and they are helpful to one another, to each of us. But I feel confident that all of us are in a good place. You all sound like it, and it's good to be with you.
Julie, you want to add anything, or are you good?
Yeah, I just say, if it doesn't serve a purpose, I've found that, like you said, Felton, there's some people that, old friends that I'm glad to see, but the relationship is, there's no purpose for the relationship anymore. And we have different values now and different things that we want to accomplish. And so in agreement with what he said.
As I figured you would be. You guys are an awesome couple, but you know that. Yeah, I totally feel that way. Just I just try to do, personally speaking, right by people, and I think that just filters so much. It really it doesn't take much effort. Just trying to be a decent person. It's disturbing to people who are not trying to be decent people when your effort and goal is to be a decent person. So it kind of it takes the shades off, so to speak, and you can see a lot clearer. That's the way I kind of look at it. So it's not so much to me about getting rid of something that brings me closer. If it's anything I get rid of, personally speaking, it's ego. But there's confidence in my existence because of that. That can be misinterpreted by some people as ego, but that's not what it is. It's just that purpose thing gives you a little confidence, I think. Just a little confidence. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Bob, I'll let you have the final thought on this topic, and then I have one last question before we get out of here for this evening. You need it or you got it?
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
So you know, in again, back to different phases of our lives. We go through phases where relationships are built around work, around neighborhoods, around organizations that we're a part of. Relationships are built around our children, our children's friends and their families and whatnot. We construct our world, especially those of us that have children. Our world becomes so much a function of what they're doing, who they're in relationship with, where they're in school, who their friends are, who their friends' parents are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And while that may be right and important and the best thing to do for that time, when that time's over, is that what is best for us moving on into the rest of our lives? I would argue probably not, because it was built, those things were built around circumstances that mattered and were important, but that aren't a part of things moving forward. So we have to, I think, have a willingness to refresh, to let go, refresh, do things differently, and so forth and so forth. And I had this conversation yesterday with a friend of mine who is in the thick of you know, teenage children, all of that classic family life thing. And then here I am, a guy, I'm single. Not only am I now with children who are now grown and married, I'm also single. And so the freedom that I have to choose who my friends are, who I'm in a relationship with in whatever way, choose what I do in whatever way, is a completely clean slate. And I feel like it's my responsibility, actually, to my life and my world and the integrity of it, to look at it that way, to just go, it's a clean slate. It's a clean slate. And so let's be honest, and let's move in honesty, with, as opposed to obligation, around activities, relationships, values, stuff, all of that sort of thing. You know, to your point, Felton, life's short. We have this one round. So what do we do with it? I think that truth and honesty and integrity are critical. And sometimes people look at that maybe as being selfish. I don't think that's selfish at all. I think that's life. I think that's really about embracing life and being honest and whatnot. And I think that if we don't get more committed to truth and integrity, the older we get, we're really missing life.
Oh wow, that's a good statement to end on, Bob. I do like that. That is about the growth that we should be afforded. The longer we live, the longer we experience. Otherwise, you're just taking up space. You're not growing. You're not living.
And when I say truth, I'm saying truth in the full sense.
Oh yeah, I think that's the
full sense.
Yeah, I think that's a understood thing based on past conversations here in the space. How you intend truth to be interpreted. So that goes without saying, but that's a wonderful thing. The more time you spend here, the better you should be becoming about being a human being, which requires wrestling with truth and having some integrity. Man, all around great show. I always am appreciative of people who spend the time, people who watch and make comments, and people who I find out later have taken part, and I've never met them. So this means a lot to me. And the set says, yet there is some reflection that I personally have had to do to assess what role I played in the demise of those relationships in an effort to preserve the good ones the future brings. Absolutely. And that's generally what I was trying to get at. There's no good guy or bad guy in this play. There's sometimes things don't work out. And if you don't do a self-evaluation and self-analysis, then you're probably missing out on a point that you could grow as an individual, regardless of who was the worst individual in any relationship. You know, you still got a moment where you can take a beat and learn something. Jay says, wait, you can put it back up. Jay says, honestly, I think we get to a place of frustration with others that we just toss it up to differences, especially when we feel that we've tried and tried again. In reality, there needs to be more accountability from ourselves, and the relationship was established due to something. And just like a relationship with our significant others, all relationships take work. What accountability are we placing on ourselves and those around us to ensure we foster those relationships? Are we taking the easy? I think there's more. Man, great comments, and you guys gonna have to come on the show. You can't just send in these long, typed out great paragraphs and not be here for us to unpack it further with your face and your voice. So you're gonna have to join the squares. But I appreciate your participation, and I thank you guys for paying grown folks business a little attention. Final question, and we're gonna run around the space with this one. And Danya, I want to hear from you on this one. That's a special occasion when Danya unmics and says something. So Danya, we're gonna give you the last word, but I'm gonna run around the space with one question, short answer, so we can get out of here. Bob, what do you plan on doing with this extra hour of daylight that is coming?
I won't notice it.
So you don't have any plans for it. Okay, keep it going. Celeste, what do you plan on doing with that extra hour of daylight?
No real plans for it. I just kind of do what I do and move how I move.
Gregory Julia, extra hour of daylight's coming.
Gregory will be mowing. I know that. And we'll just be appreciating it. We'll be sitting outside on our deck.
We're going to start the coffee earlier.
Arthur, what you going to do with this extra hour?
Coaching youth soccer, YMCA.
All right. Probably at the Hayes Taylor, I'm guessing, but if not, it's all good. That's my old home. Danya, what you gonna do with this extra hour?
Just like Bob, nothing important. Maybe wait till last minute, take out the trash.
That's pretty practical, Danya. Appreciate you sharing and unmiking tonight. I appreciate what you do in this space. I think everybody knows what I'll be doing with my extra hour. I'm not gonna say it. I think
playing golf.
There you go. So yeah, I get an extra hour to be out there. Now I can do 36 holes or maybe even 45 or whatever that is. Look, you guys have an awesome evening. Greatly appreciate the time as always. And again, I'm very grateful and thankful for you guys showing up to Grown Folks Business and just spending what I think is an awesome hour. It revitalizes me, and it's a part of my every Thursday spring. I get a little bit more to go off for this thing called life.
We agree.
Everyone take care. Have a wonderful evening. Y'all guys take care. I look forward to seeing some of you sooner than later. Arthur, great you got here. And man, I'm going to remember to send them text to you. Y'all have a good one.